Hello, trauma warriors. I'm Janae with Defeating Childhood Trauma, and welcome to Gaslighting and Predator Class Neuroscience, the Binge-Cut. All 6 episodes stitched together into one continuous flow. This series wasn't planned, but it became necessary. If you've ever felt like once you finally learned what gaslighting is, you couldn't stop learning, that's not obsession. That's your brain restoring clarity. In this binge cut, we're looking at what gaslighting does to the brain, why learning creates relief, and why predator class individuals don't update, no matter how much insight they're given. This series is for survivors who are rebuilding clarity, not for explaining away harm. Let's get into the science. If gaslighting left you confused, doubting yourself, or feeling like you can't trust your own perception, that isn't a character flaw. It's a brain injury to clarity. I want to show you what gaslighting actually does in the brain, because once you see it, a lot of self-blame falls apart. The curvy part of this horseshoe is the ACC. Think of it as your brain's error detector. It needs clarity to close the loop. When reality makes sense, the ACC says, okay, resolved, and the nervous system can settle. Gaslighting does the opposite. It feeds the ACC contradictions with no resolution. You see something, you feel something, and then you're told, that didn't happen, you're wrong, you're too sensitive. Then the ACC stays stuck in permanent error detection mode. No closure, no clarity. The insula translates your body sensations and emotions, but the insula relies on the ACC for clarity. So when the ACC can't translate reality, the insula can't translate what you feel. That's how you end up feeling something strongly, but not trusting it. This is the default mode network. It tells the story of who you are. When clarity collapses, it doesn't go quiet. It fills the gap. And what does it fill it with? Self-blame, self-doubt, and negative identity stories. The hippocampus stores memories as evidence. But if you're constantly told your perceptions are wrong, memories don't get stored as evidence. They get stored as, maybe I imagined it. Maybe I'm the problem. Gaslighting doesn't erase memories. It poisons their credibility. So if you walked away from gaslighting feeling disconnected, unsure, or feeling like you couldn't trust yourself, that's not weakness. That's your clarity system under attack. That's why hope can feel dangerous after gaslighting, not because you're pessimistic, but because clarity has to come first. Tomorrow, we're going to talk about what actually restores that clarity and how understanding what happened to you begins putting your brain back together. Yesterday, I showed you how gaslighting disrupts the clarity system, the ACC, your brain's error detector. When the ACC is fed contradiction instead of clarity, it can't close the loop and self-trust collapses. Today, I want to talk about how clarity gets restored and why educating yourself is necessary in that process. The ACC doesn't recover from reassurance. It recovers from accurate information. Understanding what happened to you is how the brain resolves confusion. That's why so many survivors remember that exact moment they realized there was a name for what they experienced. That wasn't curiosity. That was your clarity system finally getting what it needed. When you research abuse, when you learn about personality disorders, patterns, and tactics, your brain starts updating the story it tells about you. The DMN stops asking, what's wrong with me? And starts asking, what actually happened and why? Gaslighting poisons memories with doubt. Education helps the hippocampus re index those memories as evidence again. That's why understanding abuse often brings relief before grief. This is why naming the abuse matters. Naming abuse isn't cruelty or stigma, it's how the brain restores clarity. Survivors don't heal by staying vague. This also goes beyond narcissism, not because narcissistic abuse isn't real, but because they aren't the only personality disorders that are dangerous. Survivors need accurate language for what they lived through so the brain can finally close the loop. If an abuser is uncomfortable with survivors naming abuse, they're free to keep scrolling. Blocking also works. Survivors don't heal by protecting someone else's comfort. So, if you're in that phase where you're reading, learning, connecting dots, and having light bulb moments, that's not you getting stuck or being ableist. That's your clarity system coming back online. Tomorrow, we'll look at how these same brain systems operate very differently in predator class individuals compared to survivors. Because clarity destabilizes predators, and it's exactly what survivors need to finally get free. Today, I want to show you something important, not from opinion, but from science. Survivors and predator class individuals use the same brain systems, but in completely opposite ways. This is the self awareness system and the default mode network. Together, they create meaning, identity, and narrative. The difference isn't intelligence, the difference is what the system is trying to protect. For survivors, the brain is organized around clarity and coherence. The ACC, your error detector, wants contradictions resolved. The DMN asks what actually happened, and memory is search for evidence. Meaning updates when new information arrives. That's why education helps survivors, understanding brings relief, and clarity restores strength. Survivors are trying to make reality make sense. Predator class individuals use these same systems very differently. For them, the goal is not clarity. The goal is control, narrative dominance, and avoiding accountability. Instead of resolving contradictions, ambiguity is used as leverage. Instead of updating the story is defended. Instead of coherence, the system protects a fixed identity. And that's why clarity destabilizes predators. And this difference matters, not for curiosity, but for survivor safety and clarity. That explains why learning helps you regulate and why you naming patterns provokes their anger or defensiveness. Poor little egos. Same brain, opposite function. So, if learning about abuse brought you relief, that wasn't obsession, that was your brain returning to coherence. And if someone reacts strongly, if you name patterns or use accurate language, that reaction is information. Today was about understanding the difference. Tomorrow, we'll go deeper into predator class neurobiology, including why insight doesn't change their system, why stress chemistry affects them differently, and why false hope keeps survivors stuck. Today, we're going to focus specifically on predator class neuroscience and how their brain systems are used differently from ours. Survivors use the ACC as an error detector. Predator class individuals use it primarily as a threat detector. That distinction explains a lot. In predator class functioning, accountability doesn't register as information, it registers as danger. That's why even mild feedback, reasonable questions, or basic boundaries can trigger an outsized reaction. Their ACC isn't asking, am I wrong? It's asking, am I under attack? Explaining why they have the victim mentality in every situation. So instead of self correction, you see escalation. Instead of reflection, you see defensiveness. Instead of updating their behavior, you see counter accusation. In other words, where their Darvo comes from. And that's not because they don't understand what you're saying. It's because error is being interpreted as threat. That's also why they can detect error in other people just fine. But when it comes to their own behavior, the system shuts down. Now, about their default mode network. The DMN maintains identity and narrative. In predator class systems, that identity is rigidly defended. New information doesn't update the story, it destabilizes it. So, when the mohawk of self awareness detects a mismatch, when something should prompt reflection, those signals don't get to complete the loop. They're overridden by a fixed self story that must be preserved. This is why insight doesn't lead them to change, because insight threatens their identity. Survivors seek clarity to resolve confusion. Predator class systems avoid clarity to preserve control. Same brain systems, opposite priorities. Tomorrow, we'll go even deeper into predator class neurobiology, including stress chemistry, cortisol tolerance, and why survivors collapse while predators don't. Before we start, I'm going to be very clear. My brand is not, nor will it ever be, about rehabilitating abusers. I'm here for survivors, not enablers, not abusers, and not fantasies about fixing people who harm others. Now, let's talk biology. Cortisol is the stress hormone. In survivors, repeated cortisol wrecks the system. It inflames the body, suppresses immunity, and disrupts sleep, memory, and regulation. That's why survivors collapse mentally, physically, sometimes medically. That isn't weakness, it's biology under chronic threat. Now, here's the part people struggle to accept. Predator class systems don't process cortisol the same way. They externalize stress instead of internalizing it. Cortisol and norepinephrine don't shut their system down, they activate it. Conflict energizes them, confrontation sharpens them, accountability feels like a threat. Not because it's unfair, but because their system is wired for threat response, not error detection. Here's an analogy that helped me understand it. Before healing, if I dropped an inanimate object, I would cuss it out. Like, how dare it jump from my hands? But it worked. It was this great release valve. I was able to sleep like a baby at night, no guilt whatsoever, because you can't traumatize an inanimate object. Predator class systems use people the same way as stress outlets, blame containers, and regulation objects. That's why they sleep just fine. They don't ruminate or have a guilt hangover. So if your body collapsed after trying to communicate, if you got sick, foggy, or shut down, if they walked away calm while you unraveled, that wasn't because you were broken. It was because your nervous system processes stress inward to resolve it, and theirs routes it outward to unload it. Tomorrow, we'll talk about the other side of this equation. what happens to enablers and anyone living in the hope of rehabilitating a predator. Because when hope is trained on someone who will not change, hope becomes chronic stress and the body pays the price. Today, I want to explain why staying, whether as a victim or enabler, rewires the nervous system in ways people don't understand until much later. Predators discharge stress outward, survivors collapse under it, and enablers live inside it. Abuse is not gendered the way culture pretends it is. Values like restraint, empathy, and patience can be weaponized against decent people, regardless of gender. Any narrative that ignores this reality does not heal people, it creates more enablers. When you live near someone who is chronically unsafe, your nervous system never gets the stand down signal. There is constant anticipation, watching moods, scanning tone, waiting for the next shift. That anticipation keeps cortisol elevated, not explosive cortisol, but bracing cortisol. Now, dopamine doesn't live in pleasure, it lives in the anticipation. So, the good moments, the breadcrumbs, the relief after tension, that's dopamine firing. So, the nervous system learns stress, wait, relief. Hope becomes something you brace for. If someone were abusive 24/7, more people would get out. What keeps them stuck is intermittent reward. The system keeps waiting for the next moment of relief. That's how the system gets conditioned. I grew up watching this happen in real time. The unsafe person, my mother, stayed energized. The one absorbing the stress, my father, slowly disappeared. From the outside, he appeared weak, but it was his biology under chronic anticipation. Over time, this kind of anticipation causes more than anxiety. It erodes digestion, suppresses immunity, flattens emotions, and shuts people down. That's why the person absorbing the stress often deteriorates faster than the one who's causing it. Tomorrow, we'll talk about why hope itself can be triggering for survivors even years after they escape. Before we close, I want to reiterate something. My work is for survivors. Predator class individuals don't change because insight doesn't reach the systems that govern empathy and accountability. And survivors don't heal by waiting for people who harm them to suddenly update. Clarity isn't cruelty. Education is an obsession. And boundaries are not hatred. They're how the brain repairs itself after gaslighting. If this series gave you clarity, relief, or a sense of grounding, validate that. And if you're still learning, that doesn't mean you're stuck. It means your error detection system is coming back online. Forged in trauma, rising as warriors.